Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. If you're here, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. All right. Also, if you have any questions about anything that I'm about to go over in this here video, please put your questions in the comment section. Also, if you just got a comment, put your comment in the comment section. All right. And also, please share this video with somebody. All right. Now, what are we doing? Well, before I get into this, we're doing some SEPTA math. So if you live in Philly or in the Philadelphia surrounding counties, you know about SEPTA, Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation or Transit Administration or Association Authority. I'm not sure what the A stands for. I meant to look that up before I recorded this video. I forgot. My bad. But SEPTA. Everybody know what SEPTA is. They run the buses. They run the sub. It goes up and down Broad Street. They run the L. That goes from West Philly to East, through downtown to East Philly, I guess, or the Northeast up through the Northeast. We don't really say East Philly, but the trolleys, also the regional rail, right? And I was reading this article, right? I was reading this article about SEPTA, and the article said that the article was about fare evasion citations. So fare evasion, what does that mean? That means somebody that like hopped the turnstile, to get on the train for free, right? So SEPTA was giving out tickets. They give you a ticket, give you a citation, and if you rack up a whole bunch of citations, then I guess they'll put a picture up of you, and like you won't be allowed to take SEPTA, right? They're gonna have pictures of you or whatever. I don't know how they're gonna enforce that, but anyway, that's what's supposed to happen. They was talking about that in this article. But when I read articles, I do math while I read because I want to make sense of what I'm reading. So I read the article and it was talking about fare evasion citations. It said that in 2024, SEPTA cops gave out 5,700 of them. So 5,700 in the year 2024. It also said that this 5,700 represented, this up arrow means an increase, right? I just ain't want to write the word increase. An increase of 167% in fare evasion citations from the previous year. What's the previous year? Not 2022, not 2021. The previous year is 2023. So in 2023, this number is 167% more than they gave out in the year 2023. So the question I have is, well, I'm just curious. How many were given out in 2023? And as I read, this is why I say, right? In order to be a reading person, you should also be a math person, because what happens when you encounter something that you're reading that has quantitative data in it? Then what? If you want to make meaning of it and get a better understanding, you should know how to do some calculations, like in this particular situation. Because, like, okay, it's cool to say it went up 167%, but do you even, as a concept, even know what that means, right? And why not just figure out the exact amount that it was in 2023, right? So anyway, there's a formula, right, for percent change. This is a percent change situation, right? It increased 167%. So if something increases by a certain percentage or it decreases by a certain percentage, that's a percent change. The percentage has changed. And there's a formula for that. I'm going to write the formula on the board. The formula is this: new minus old divided by old times 100 is equal to the percent change. This triangle is delta. Delta is a Greek letter that represents change. It's a symbol, right? It represents change, how much something changes, right? New is the new percentage. Old is the previous percentage. Old again, previous percentage. Multiply that by 100, that'll give you the percent change. So based on this, we have some of this information, but not all of it. We have the new amount of citations because new represents the more recent year, 2024. The old year is the previous year, 2023, right? Previous year, 2023. Previous year from what? 2024. Previous year, 2023. So the amount of citations given out in the new year is, or from the newest year is 5,700. So we're going to plug in everything we know into this formula. So we're going to replace the word new with 5,700. The word old, we don't know, because we don't know how many citations were given out in 2023. We don't know that. So what you do in algebra, and we're doing algebra right now, it's a percentage problem, but we're using algebra to solve this percentage problem. What do you do in this situation? You use a variable, use a letter to represent an unknown value. So let's say C for citations. I mean, you use any letter we want, but I chose to use C because it's the first letter in the word citations. All right. Now, old again is in the denominator. That's C, right? And then times 100 is equal to the percent change. So the percent change is 167, right? In percentage format. So we don't got to change it to 1.67 for this part, right? This is the actual percentage, 167. Now, our goal now is to use algebra and solve for C. Now, this might look intimidating, but don't let it intimidate you. You know, don't let it intimidate you. Don't let it punk you, right? Don't let these math problems punk you. A lot of people allow math problems and algebra problems to punk them. Poke your chest out, right? Stand 10 toes down and get this work done. All right, I'm going to show you how to do it. All right, so look, 5,700 minus C over C times 100. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 100 and I'm actually going to, you know what? Now I think about it. Trying to think, should I get rid of this 100? No. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply this 100 by the numerator of this fraction because this is a fraction, right? Even if it don't look like it is a fraction. There's a fraction bar. This expression is a numerator. This is the denominator. This is a whole number, but if you represented it as a fraction, it will be 100 over 1. So we multiply 100 by everything in the numerator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my work up here. All right, so I have some space. So I'm going to have 100 times 5,700 minus C over C. So now I got one fraction is equal to 167. Now, why did I do that? I did that because if I set up an equation that's got one fraction on the left side of the equation and one fraction on the right side of the equation, or just one number, right? Even though 167 is a whole number, but I could make that look like a fraction by putting a 1 underneath of it, right? Then I can do what I call the Malcolm X method of cross multiplication, right? Most textbooks will call it the cross product property, but I don't like calling it that. I like calling it the Malcolm X method because I like to evoke the names of our ancestors. Plus, it's 2025. It's May. This is the month that represents or recognizes the 100th birthday anniversary of Malcolm X. Omawale Malcolm X, born May 19th, 1925, right? In Omaha, Nebraska. Was it Omaha, Nebraska? Yeah, it was. Then they moved to Lansing, Michigan later. But yeah, check his autobiography out. Autobiography of Malcolm X. I highly recommend it. All right. Also his speeches. Ballad or the Bullet, delivered in 1964. Message to the Grassroots, delivered like around 1963. And The Last Message, delivered in 1965, a week before he was assassinated in Harlem, Audubon Ballroom. All right. But anyway, I call it the Malcolm X method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this 167 look like a fraction, put a 1 underneath, and then I'm going to go multiply 1 times this numerator, and I'm going to multiply C times this over here, right? So I'm going to have 167C is equal to this times this, right? I did that, right? And then I did this, right? 1 times that. 1 times anything is just that thing. So I'm going to have 100 times 5,700 minus C. Now, I did that to get rid of the fractions. I cross multiplied or used the Malcolm X method to get rid of the fractions, right? So now I'm going to distribute this 100. I'm actually going to distribute it. So I got 167C is equal to 5700. Now, what happens when you multiply by 100? Multiplying by 100, you basically are just attaching 2 zeros to that factor. So I'm attaching 2 zeros to 5700, which means I'm going to have 4 zeros, right? So what number is that anyway? That's 570,000. 100 times 5,700 is 570,000, right? Because I got a total of 4 zeros in the number. And then I got minus 100C. And now I got an issue. I got C's in too many places. I got a C over here and I got a C over here. I need to have C in one place, right? C in one place. Kind of like when you counting your money up. You want to organize your money. You don't want to have money all over the place. You want to get all your money from all your pockets. You know what I'm saying? Put it all together in one knot, or one pile, whatever you want to do. That's what we want to do with this variable. We don't want to have C's in different places. So I got a C over here and a C over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this C over here by doing the opposite operation. So the opposite operation is addition. The opposite of subtracting 100C is adding 100C. So I'm going to do plus 100C on the right, but I keep it balanced. I got to stay balanced. If I do it on the right side of the equation, I got to also do it on the left side of the equation. Right side, left side. Now, if you got an issue with solving linear equations, that's why I told you to subscribe. I got a whole playlist on solving linear equations you should tap into. I got over 50 videos on there and counting. right? Because I'm adding content on a regular basis, right? So you should tap into that. Plus 100C and then plus 100C, boom, boom. And even if you're already real good with solving linear equations, I might put you onto a method you never used before that you might like. So go check it out. So now these cancel out. That becomes 0. 167 plus 100 is 267. C is equal to 570,000. Now I'm trying to get C by itself. That's my whole goal, to solve for C. That's my goal, right? Because C is the amount of fair evasion citations given out in the year 2023, right? So I got to get rid of this 267. How though? I got to do the opposite operation. What's the opposite of multiplying by C? 267C means 267 times C. That's multiplication. Ask yourself, what's the opposite of multiplication? It's division. You got to know that, right? You got to know that. All right. So we divide by 267, but you got to keep it balanced. Once again, keep it balanced. Divide by 267 on the left, divide by 267 on the right. So 267 divided by 267 is 1. That gives us 1C. The language of math. Understand the language of math, understand the language of algebra. 1C is the same thing as C, plain old C. All right, so we're going to have C equal sign. Now, this is a calculator problem, right? Now, it's important for us to know how to do this math on paper, right? And there are ways to do this mentally, but I'm not getting into the mental math right now, right? But we definitely should know how to do this on paper using long division or partial quotients or box method of division, whatever we can, right? But it's also we want to consider efficiency. We want to know how to use our calculators. So you type in 570,000. We about to get to the answer. Divided by 267 is equal to 2,134.83. But you can't give out a fraction. A decimal is a fraction. Make sure you know that. Again, the language of math. Know how to read it, speak it, write it. A decimal is a fraction. You can't give out a fraction of a citation. So we round up. So we say C is approximately equal to 2,135. So we would say that in the year 2023, if the amount of citations went up by 167%, in 2023, they only gave out 2,135 citations. So in 2024, something happened. So again, because we did the math, this is part of us doing what's called analysis, right? So we can start to look at like, what was going on in 2024? Did they hire more SEPTA cops? Was it really that many more people, jumping the turnstile? Or did somebody just make a decision and say, okay, we need to increase our income, so let's actually start cracking down, right? But once you do the math, then you can start generating other questions, right? 167% is crazy, right? That's whenever something goes up by 100%, it doubled, right? When it went up by more than 100%, that means it more than doubled. Think about it. 2135, if you double that, that's like 4,260 something. That's less than that. That's why it went up, it more than doubled, right? But this is the math though. So whenever you see a situation where there's a percent change, a percent increase, or a percent decrease, this is the formula that you can use. This formula is your friend. Get well acquainted with this formula. All right. Percentages are important. Percentages are the language of business. And SEPTA is a business. So when SEPTA puts out reports and information, they're going to use the language of percentages. And if you're reading an article or you're reading information or you hear somebody on the news talking about some information and they drop a percentage, if you don't understand the concept of percentages and you don't understand how to calculate percentages, you're going to be lost. What are you even listening to? Right? You don't want to be lost. You can't just sit there and be like, well, I trust it's all good. No, because there might be something going on that you might want to look into, right? You need to understand the language of percentages. You need to understand the language of fractions. You need to understand the language of decimals. These are just things you need to know. And you can't stop listening to these people that tell you that it's irrelevant. You're never going to use it in life. Yeah, it's true. A lot of people are not going to use percentages in life. But when you're not using percentages in life, you're being taken advantage of, whether you want to accept it or not. It's like not knowing how to read. Would anybody say, yo, I don't need to know how to read. I'm never going to use that in life. Because I'm gonna just listen to audio books. Or I'm gonna just get people to tell me information. Well, how you know they're telling you the truth? How you know they're telling you the truth, my guy? Like for real. A lot of us, unfortunately, we look for a lot of excuses to be lazy and to be anti-intellectual. And we only do it because we hear other people say it and it sounds good. Right? Stop listening to them people. right? Just learn. That's why I created this whole YouTube channel. Right now, currently, I got over 900 videos on all different types of levels of math, from arithmetic up to calculus, right? Just tap in. You can learn the math. Like if you're a parent watching this, adult, grandparent, uncle, auntie, whatever, you can learn the math that you never learned when you was in school. And that's helpful because your children need to know it. They need somebody to help them with it, somebody they trust. Your children probably trust you. Your grandchildren probably trust you. Your nieces and nephews probably trust you. Wouldn't it be nice if you could help them with their homework? But if you never learned it in school, what you gonna say? I can't help you with that. Go learn it. And that's why I created the YouTube channel. So you can easily come and learn it. So lock in, subscribe, like I said in the beginning of the video, right? You come through with your pen and paper or pencil if you want to use a pencil. That's cool. Whatever you want to do, right? And learn some of this stuff. But definitely, percentages are the language of business. Percentages are the language of money. This right here, 5,700 fair evasion citations, that represents money. That's probably millions of dollars. And we could do some math and calculate that too. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna do a video on that because this article also talked about the amount of the fair evasion citation. But this is the stuff just in terms of being a responsible citizen and a responsible person that lives in Philly, right? These are things we should be aware of. But if you don't know the math, they can give you the information, but if you can't interpret it because you don't know the math and you don't understand percentages, it don't matter. So learn the math. All right. Like I said, if you got questions about anything I did up here, anything up here, anything over here, drop your question in the comments. Right. Share this video with somebody, especially if you're in Philly, because they know about SEPTA. You ride SEPTA. You're familiar with SEPTA, right? Make sure you hit the like button and make sure you subscribe if you ain't subscribed already. All right. Oh, and I'm going to give a shout out to the Upward Bound program, that I taught at for about 6 years, actually like 9 years, 3 years in the military veterans Upward Bound program. But then I taught like 6 years in the high school Upward Bound program over at UPenn out in West Philly. You know, I taught math and history to the high schools. First, I was teaching history to the high school students. Then I started teaching math. That's what I originally was trying to do, but they already had a math teacher at first. So, you know what I'm saying? Once that teacher, stepped away, then I had a lane. Boom, slid right in, right? But before that, I was teaching math to the military veterans, right? So I got my Upward Bound hoodie on. This kind of brings back memories, right? Those are some good times. Saturday mornings, teaching Upward Bound to the high school students. Also teaching like Monday through Thursday in the summer program, you know. And but with the military veterans, I was teaching on Monday nights and Wednesday nights. You know, that was cool too. So yeah, but so just a little relevant math, trying to show you how everyday life has math in it, has opportunities for us to use the math that's being taught in school. It's not irrelevant. It's not futile. It's not dumb. It's not useless. It's not pointless. Just learn it. Learn it. Understand percentages, right? It's going to help your life if you let it. All right. Peace.